Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about the internationalization of family businesses. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested because, as we all know, the importance of internationalizing a business or a family business, perhaps. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Mohar bin Yusof and Dr. Leilanie Mohd Nor. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Yeah, Mohar, you want to welcome first?
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the MC, Miss Ishwarmit. Thank you for inviting us to this webinar. And we will be discussing about the topic in two parts. The first part will be discussed by Dr. Leilanie. I think she will start with the presentation first, and then I will continue in the second part. So with that, Leilanie, I'll pass it to you, and maybe you can also introduce the company.
First of all, thank you so much, everyone. I'm Leilanie Mohd Nor. I'm the Group CEO of Bina Pavo. Bina Pavo is a family business advisory firm. It is located in Shah Alam, but most of our clients are within the Klang Valley, but of course within Malaysia. Yeah, we do have a footing in the Asia Pacific region, and we have collaborators as well within the Asia Pacific region. Yeah, so I'm going to speak on preparing next gen for internationalization, right? Okay, so I shall start, and if any one of you would like to follow me, I am at Twitter at Leilanie MN, and of course on LinkedIn, yeah, Leilanie Mohd Nor. Okay, so let's quickly just look at what it is like out there, yeah, in terms of family business, and how much foothold it has, yeah, in terms of the national GDP, in terms of the percentage of family businesses in the private sector, and even in terms of workforce employment, yeah. So in terms of national GDP, Malaysia, yeah, Malaysia contributes about 67.2%, as you can see up here. Yeah, I hope you all will be able to see the slide. Yeah, and at the bottom here, you'll see that the percentage of family business in the private sector, yeah, and Malaysia is about 70%. So there's about 70% family businesses in Malaysia, as compared to, say, you know, Latin America. You could see up to about 90%. Mexico is also about 90%. Countries like say Hong Kong, France, and Taiwan is about 60%. Yeah, so that's an overview of the percentage of family businesses in the private sector. In terms of percentage of workforce, yeah, about 65% of workforce are being employed by family businesses.
Leilanie,
so yeah,
your slides are not moving.
Are you at the?
I think you have to click on the slide. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll show this one because I noticed that most of the time when we use Google Meet, when we do a slideshow, it doesn't seem to you know, move from one slide to the other. But I hope you all could see this. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show it as big as I can. Yeah. And maybe I should. Okay. So could you see this one, Mohar, the one with the colorful bubbles?
Yes.
Okay, so you could see that in terms of workforce, as I was saying earlier on, family businesses employ about 65% of the workforce. Yeah, so you could see how important family businesses are in terms of how it impacts the economy and also the livelihood of everybody else. Yeah, so it's feeding 65%, yeah, of families everywhere. Yeah, in Malaysia, a study done in 2017 shows that in Malaysia we are ranked 7th, yeah, in terms of number of family-owned businesses. So you could very much say that Malaysia has a lot of family businesses. Yeah. This is just a definition of what family business is. Yeah. But in a nutshell, it's one of the oldest and most dominant, business organization. It can range from small, medium, large, even and certainly public listed. Yeah, and usually we look at family businesses when it comes to sometimes people say, what about companies that are public listed? So we say that it depends on how big the pie is. A company like Toyota, the Toyota family in Japan, even though they only have, I think, less than that, it's about 4%, but the pie is so huge. Yeah, so this Toyota family, itself is a family business in the Toyota business. Yeah, okay. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the common brands that you are familiar with. Yeah, perhaps we all know Samsung, yeah, coming out of Korea. We know Genting coming out of Malaysia. If you love chocolates, yeah, Whittaker in New Zealand is a family business. Yeah, if you drive a BMW, that's a family business. Yeah, and on to the United States, I think everybody knows Johnson and Johnson. In fact, they are also one of the companies that have manufactured the vaccine for COVID, right? So that's Johnson and Johnson is a family business, and so on and so forth. Yeah. The next slide, I just want to take you back to Malaysia because earlier on you see, what it was in terms of brands globally. But let's go back to Malaysia. Now, this is, I know this is an old statistics, yeah. It's 2016, but this is the current statistic that they have on the Department of Statistics Malaysia. But in terms of numbers, you should not be too worried because it's pretty much about the same numbers. Yeah, not that much changes. Yeah, but what is important is to see the percentages, right? So in terms of if we put aside the public listed, or rather if we look at the total number of businesses in Malaysia, there's close to 1 million, 920,000 as per the data in 2016. Yeah, about 98% are SMEs and about 1.5% is large. Out of that, about 800 are listed, in the stock exchange. So let us see in terms of numbers. Yeah, so if we were to map, earlier on I was mentioning that family businesses is about 70%. Yeah, in terms of businesses in Malaysia, 70% are family businesses in Malaysia. So if we were to just take the numbers that we saw just now, and kind of map the 70%, so you could see, on the right side, the number of family businesses that possibly are family businesses. In terms of SMEs, about 645,000, large are about almost 10,000, and then public listed is about 560 family businesses. So these are large numbers. Some of the faces of family businesses, a large organization, be it public listed or not. Of course, thank you, Sadway University, for inviting us. today. Yeah, so we'll, you know, that is the owner of Sunway, Tan Sri Dr. Jeffrey Chia, yeah, and of course many other familiar faces such as Toddler, Berjaya, yeah, IOI Group, the M Bank Group, yeah, Lion Group, you know, of course you all use Grab, yeah. So Anthony Tan is from Tanchong Motors, yeah, and so on. All right. So if we look at how family businesses are able to sustain over generations, yeah, and this is sharing on some of the important aspects for family businesses to have in order for them to be sustainable. Yeah, so they have to have a good corporate governance as well as family governance structure. Yeah, they must put in place some kind of succession planning. They ought to stay true to their core business. Yeah, they have strong values, and today I'm going to touch a lot on values and how that is linked to internationalization. Yeah, so strong values that can then will see sustainable growth, how important innovation is, and that again is also linked to internationalization, and finally giving back to the community. Yeah, so if these important aspects are being put in place, then you will see that family businesses would be able to last over generations. And some of the example of companies that has embodied, yeah, and implemented and internalized these particular 6 aspects of these bullets are companies like Lego, yeah, Hermes, Johnson and Johnson, as mentioned earlier on, Barilla from Italy, Yazaki, Japan, Ayala in Philippines. Yeah, so these are some good examples of family businesses that are, have sustainable growth. All right. So let's go into how do we shape family firm internationalization, right? So I'm going to share with you a study, and through this study, I am breaking it down into 3 main categories. One is individual or family level at the top. Secondly is organizational level, and thirdly is institutional level. Yeah. So in order for the family business to think about going international, they have to put this particular framework in place. Yeah. So when we look into individual levels, yeah, some of the drivers for it, yeah, this is a study done by in 2018. It's done by Sang E, yeah, and the title of the journal was Family Firm and Internationalization and Organizational Learning Perspective. Yeah, and I like this paper, and I think this is a paper that we see it being practiced, and not just through what we read, but also through our advisory. Yeah, when we advise family businesses, we also believe that, you know, when we are looking at next generation development, it's good to look at the learning perspective or the education, the training and the development of the next generation, right? So from the individual level or the family level, yeah, it's good, yeah, when we look into making sure that the family members itself serves as an organizational memory. Yeah, so that means it becomes something that is being discussed, spoken of, internalized within the family, right? And this is good because when families communicate and they speak about internationalization, they speak about how important trust is, culture or kinship, yeah, this will help them to then be able to strategize as they are looking into options for internationalization. All right, so I'm because I like the fact that, or rather, I believe that when it comes to the family, when it comes to the individual level, it is embedded into strong values. So I'm going to share with you some of examples of the family businesses that we have in Malaysia. Yeah. At Bina Pavo, we have what we call the Pavo codes. Yeah. So I'm going to share with you the codes as I'm also giving you examples of how families are able to go international. Yeah. So this is Datuk Sri Mir Sadiq, and he is the owner of, or rather, he's the current generation of Habib Jewel. Yeah, he's a Gen 2. It was started by his father. So you can see the picture here. This is Datuk Sri Mir and his wife, Datin Sri Zarida. And this is his next gen. Yeah, so meaning Mirzan is the third generation of Habib Jewel. Yeah, so if you love diamonds and you love jewelry like most women do, then you should know what is Habib Jewel. Yeah, so for Datuk Sri Mir, his quote is, the most important thing is the values and the foundation. Yeah, I always go back to the integrity part of the business. You must always have the drive, passion, and the skills to carry out the business. If you combine all this, do things the right way, profit will come. Yeah. So what I want to highlight here is for this family, you could see that values, becomes the foundation of what they do, and not just among family members, but also in the business. Yeah. So this is when I talk about individual or family level. Another example, and how important trust is. Yeah, as we saw earlier on the earlier slide. Yeah, we saw how important trust is. Yeah, so this is Bel Muhammad Yamin. She's a second generation, and her quote is, as the one who is walking the shoes, I truly feel in business, trust and loyalty are two main keys to keeping the business strong. Yeah, there are many opportunities to grab, but if you don't come together, nothing can be done. Yeah, so it's so important that whether or not you go international or just remains, locally in Malaysia, it's very important to have trust and loyalty. Yeah, to make sure that the business is strong. Yeah, so this is coming from Bel Muhammad Yamin. Yeah, she is a second gen. Her father had passed away a couple of years ago, and I believe the father has another two shareholder in the company. So even though she has taken a back seat, but the family still have some shares in the company. Yeah, okay. If you love burgers, then you know Ramly Burger, right? Okay, so Ramly Food Processing Sdn Bhd has gone international. They export to many countries, not just within the Asian region, but also further towards Africa and so on and so forth. Yeah, so for Dato Dr. Haji Ramly, he says that honesty, diligence, effort, helping others in need, and alms giving. Yeah, alms giving is the act of giving to the poor. If you are more familiar with the word zakat. Yeah, so giving to the poor. So these are the 5 principles that they hold on to, and I like this particular one that he says, and these are what I have inculcated in my children for them to carry on the Ramly legacy. Yeah. So again, these are values, principle, the foundation that needs to be put in place, to ensure that the family business can come together and make a decision yeah, to go international. Yeah. So again, this is Dato and his wife, yeah, Datin Hajah Shala, and this is Siti Rahayu, and this is Muhammad Zaharin, yeah, the son. Okay, so that's on values, on trust, on loyalty, on kinship that needs to be communicated in a family business. Yeah, and as you can see in our, what we call here at Bina Pavo, we call this our 3 C's. Yeah, communication, cohesion, continuity, the 3 C's. So I want to iterate how important communication is. So we tell all our clients, we all start with communication. You may have your values, but if you don't communicate to the next generation, then they would not know. Yeah. If you don't tell the stories, if you do not share the family philosophy, then the next generation would not understand. So that's how important communication is. And with communication, the family would come together, hence the word cohesion or cohesiveness. And when the family is together in cohesion, then they would have business continuity. Yeah, so that is at Bina Pavo. That's what we preach, and that is what we believe when we speak to our clients. Yeah. So going back to individual or family level drivers in shaping family from internationalization, we also look into next generation cognition and education. So that's why at Bina Pavo as well, we have what we call, when we provide our advisory to family businesses, we have what we call our 4 pillars. Yeah, and the first pillar is training and development. Yeah, so that is where we look into the next generation's cognition and education. And this is important if you want to go international as well, right? So why is that? Take for example, Anthony Tan. We all use Grab food or Grab car or Grab whatever else. Yeah. So Anthony Tan, he did his master's in the US. Yeah. And by being overseas, not only has he acquired a foreign, tertiary education, yeah, but he has made friends, yeah, with people outside of what he normally gets in Malaysia, for example. Yeah, so imagine the kind of classmates that he has when he was doing his masters. This is part of networking, and if you want to go international, you must be able to network. And usually friendship is forged, yeah, in school or at the university. And when you keep that circle of friends, these are the friends that then become your business network. Yeah. So going overseas, the children's education, the development of the child, yeah, in the example of Anthony Tan, yeah, helps, yeah, in terms of making sure that he is able to take Grab International. And we all know that Grab is, in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Philippines, and everywhere else, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is one example. This is another example of one of the companies that we have been engaging in the past 10 years. Mofas, yeah, they are located right opposite of IKEA on the highway. Tuan Haji Fauzi, the founder, yeah, and in his words, when I commit, I fulfill. When I promise, I deliver. When I have my aim, I must achieve it. Yeah. So they have gone international, and they have done this by, number one, sending their eldest son to the UK to study. And number two, Farhan then decided to stay on in London so that they can, continue to have that network so that London or rather Europe becomes the hub for them to source for their materials or their spare parts or whatever else they need, and so that it can be brought to Malaysia or vice versa, Malaysia to Europe or Europe to Malaysia. Yeah. So again, another example of how education, the network that the next generation has and acquired by studying overseas, helps the company to go international. Yeah, Morfas is a large conglomerate. They have many subsidiaries, but their core is in automotive, hospitality. Yeah, they own several hotels, and as well as in F&B. Yeah, with a little bit of property development. Yeah, so that is Morfas. Yeah, so that is on the individual family level. So now let's look into the organizational level. Yeah, the second tier. Right. So when a company wants to go international, right? It says here that the organization must have what we call the social capital, including, close relationship with the host country or the country that they want to go into. Yeah. So how else do you have close relationship with, another country? It starts with sending your child to study or to work abroad. Yeah, that could be one of the easiest channel, to have a close relationship with the host country. Yeah, and of course, if you have these two, then it will have a positive effect, especially on technological capabilities. Yeah, so let's look into the next slide. Yeah, so this is an example of City Chair Sdn Bhd. So they make furnitures. Their core or their specialization is in office furniture. Yeah, and so this is in the word of Joseph Liu. Joseph, this is Joseph. Yeah, he is the eldest son. Yeah, and in his words, I am looking into ways to improve production efficiency. And although I have the support of my father, communication between generations becomes or remains a challenge, but this is what I need to work on. So you see, communication is a challenge, but he believes and he understands that communication is important. Yeah, and he's talking about production efficiency. Why? Because at this point, they were already exporting to Europe, especially to Germany. But now they wanted to export to the United States. Yeah, so he had to make sure that he understand on how to have efficiency with regards to production. Yeah, and I think like all other next generation, the biggest challenge we always hear is they have challenges speaking to their fathers or their mothers, but more their fathers. Yeah, but what is important is to continue to have that conversation. That is important. Yeah. Okay. Another aspect or drivers for family firm internationalization. I'd like to touch on how important succession intention is. Yeah. So in other words, if a family business wants to go international, not only do they need social emotional wealth, social economy emotional wealth are things like how the family converge together, how they make decisions, how they bind together as a family in the society, how they have family bonding, and so on and so forth. These are social emotional wealth. Yeah, not just they need that, but they must also have what we call succession intention. Again, if you have an intention, if you don't speak about it, how would the next generation know, right? So again, goes back to communication. You have an intention, you have to communicate. If you don't communicate your intention, then nobody knows, right? So succession intention is important, especially when you plan to go international or if you have gone international. This was a study by Price Waterhouse, yeah, PwC in 2018. I know, that they do so many other studies, yeah, but I particularly like this because this looks into how little, yeah, or families uh, that has not come up with any kind of succession planning. Yeah, because in the study, only 23% actually has a robust, formalized, and communicated succession plan. Only 23%. Yeah, again, the word communication. You can have a good succession plan on paper. You can formalize it by having it on paper and talking to your HR department. But if you don't communicate it to the next generation, if you don't communicate it to your employees, if you do not communicate it to your family as a whole, it may not also work. Yeah, so that is how important communication is with regards to succession. Yeah, of course, a family business continuity also very much uh, is anchored on values. Yeah, so companies that has clear sense of agreed values and purpose as a company, yeah, then the likelihood of it going from one generation is and so forth is better. Yeah, so in this study, it's interesting to see that 78% has clear and agreed values. 81% believe that values and the purpose of as a company will increase the company's revenue. Yeah, so 81% believe that. Yeah, 90% believe that values makes the company a happier workplace. Yeah, so if you have that anchored already, values are there, family members understand that, employees understand that. But if you do not have a good succession planning, which in this study shows that only 23% actually has a good, robust, formalized, communicated succession plan, then going international and being sustainable internationally can be a challenge. Yeah, all right. So other drivers that we look at, when we look into Asian family business firms, yeah, we see that most Asian family businesses, they tend to expand in non-developed countries. And this is not to say that, why they did not export or go to America? Why didn't they go to Europe as much? Yeah, why do they go to within the familiar Asia, and also why do they go to Africa? Yeah, so in a study again done by Zhu and Heat, yeah, in 2019. When they look into the international expansion of family firm, they found that why Asian families will most likely expand within Asia and also Africa or non-developed countries, because to some extent the culture is similar. Yeah, the language is almost similar. Yeah, of course, Malaysia, Indonesia, same language. Yeah, in Malaysia, you speak Mandarin, or Cantonese, you can go to China or Hong Kong, right? And values, the Asian values are very similar. So it's so much easier to expand to a country that has, similarities in terms of culture, language, or values, right? Okay, and of course, in the study also it says that when you're developed, then you tend to expand in other developed countries. So you can see that the United States and Canada will do a lot of business with the European countries. Yeah, but then again, of course, when it comes to if you want to say, we have one client, they make kacang putih, yeah, they are out of Lembu in Ipoh. They are a second generation business, and when we ask the second generation, we ask him, why do you, he has managed to export it to China, because China takes a lot of their kacang putih, so they like to snack on a snack on peanuts and whatnot in China, but the next gen was really focused into exporting to the United States. Exporting kacang putih, meruku, and kacang-kacang to the US. So we asked him, his name is Surendran. So we asked him, Surendran, why do you focus your team into trying to export to the US? In his words, if I can export to the United States, which is one of the hardest country to export to because of the stringent regulation and the policy and with regards to food, so he said, if I can export to the US, if I meet that high standard, then I can export anywhere else. So this is in the words of Surendran, a second gen, a family business based in Ipoh. So that's one example of how the next generation is focused into exporting to the US, because if he can go there, he can go everywhere. In terms of globally. Other than that, this is another company, Di Tandoor. If you like Northern Indian food, this is a family business in Malaysia. Amir Malik, that is him standing with his mother and his father, Datuk Malik. And in his words, he says that he has always enjoyed going to the father's restaurants. He will always follow the father. He is a twin. He has a twin brother. His brother actually pursued medicine. Pursued medicine. He went to the UK to pursue his medicine. But Amir stayed on to study in Malaysia, but at the same time followed his father, and visit restaurants. So today they have Di Tandoor in Cambodia, Perth, Sydney, in Australia, New Zealand, and also the Middle East. Dammam and also Aqaba. Right? Okay. So another quote. This is from BP Healthcare. My father taught me that discipline and hard work are two of the most important things. You have to be passionate in everything that you do, because when you're passionate, you'll be able to climb mountains and swim through oceans to get to your goals. So this is in the word of Ghazvi Beh. He is a second gen of BP Healthcare. And they are just located, I think one of their biggest plant and their office is just located not too far away from you all. They are in Glenmarie. So this is again showing how important for the father to make sure that they inculcate discipline and hard work. Another one. This is Allied Chemist Laboratory. You don't know this because they do testing and stuff like this, but they have gone international, but in the words of Ichan, a second gen, this is when we look into employees. Yeah, employees do not purposely underperform. Yeah, there is a reason. This is the difference whereby you need to actually listen to what a person feels and not just look at the results themselves. Yeah, it's a long process, it's a tricky process, but you have to learn to enjoy the process. Yeah, so what I'm saying here is, when it comes to organizational level, the employees are also important. You need to understand your employees. Yeah, you need to listen to your employees, and you need to together learn to make sure that the process um, uh, becomes something that is enjoyable, not just for the family, but of course for the employees. Yeah, and if you remember Price Waterhouse research, it shows that 80% of employees are happy. Yeah, if there is good values being embedded. Yeah, if they understand the purpose and there is good values, the employees are also happy working. Yeah, so again, not just the family needs to make sure they come together, employees needs to also come together, again embedded by values. Finally, we go into institutional level. Yeah, so we've done individual, we've done organizational level, and finally institutional level. Okay, so this is just me sharing, in the words of Emily Chu. Yeah, she says, I believe that when we are given an application, it is our responsibility to honor it. So this is, in the words of Emily, that, when the father says, I want to pass this over to you, you have to take it, as a responsibility, and you have to honor it. Yeah. So how does that link to institutional level? Yeah. So the honoring, honoring that responsibility is to make sure that you take care not just your family, not just the organization, but the community around you. Yeah. Again, if we go back to this particular slide, I think it's this. No. Okay, I go so far. Okay, when I go to this slide, this socio-emotional wealth, that is very much linked to making sure that the emotional wealth that you have, not just in your family, but also your community, that will help also the economy. That is the level of institutional level. Yeah, so you have to make sure that that is also embodied and understood by the next generation, as you are shaping to go international, or if you have gone international, but you want to make sure that you continue to grow and be sustainable, overseas, as you go global, in taking your family business, your family legacy, the brand, overseas. Okay, so I think that's all I'd like to cover. I hope I've not taken too much time. And again, do follow us. If you want to learn more, you want to see more of what we do, the stories that we share among not just our clients, but also the materials that we've gathered, the content on family business. Do come and visit us at our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as our YouTube, and LinkedIn. Okay, so with that, I'd like to pass this back to Mohar, or should I pass it to Ishwarmeet?
Yeah, Ishwarmeet.
Hi, yes, Dr. Leilanie, thank you so much for the insightful workshop that you just presented. But yeah, Dr. Mohar can continue.
Okay.
Dr. Mohar? Yep.
Thank you, Ishwarmeet.
Thank you.
So let me upload or share my slides now. Do you see the slides?
Yes, we see the
Okay.
slides.
If I put it on slideshow,
Yep, we can
okay,
still see. Yep.
all right. So just now, Dr. Leilanie spoke about the internationalization, or actually focusing on the next, on preparing next generation for internationalization. I'd like to take a slightly different perspective of discussing cross-border management of family wealth. So the focus is related to family business, but I'll be talking more about family wealth. And in this slide, we can see that on the left side, showing Asia's richest families, 10 families in Asia, the most wealthy, and they are from various countries such as India, Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, etc. And that and this wealth comes from the businesses. So these family businesses are conglomerates, and they are involved in real estate and construction, food and beverages business, electronics, jewelry, right? On the right side of the slides, what I'm trying to show are assets owned by families. This could be owned by individuals as well, but in this case, these individuals or entrepreneurs are also creating wealth for the family. So the type of assets owned or wealth owned by families nowadays range from properties to luxury boats to private jets, uh, luxury cars, sport cars, even art. And there is also investment in cryptocurrencies or digital currencies. And here I'm showing a photo of Tan Sri Vincent Tan, a Malaysian who owns Berjaya Corp, a large conglomerate and listed in Bursa, Malaysia. And he owns a football team in the United Kingdom. So, so from here, this is where I'd like to discuss the three categories of wealth or assets. So we can categorize wealth or assets into personal wealth, business wealth, and family wealth. And just now, Dr. Leilanie focused on the business side, the internationalization of family businesses. So that would correspond to business wealth. And for internationalization, the businesses, the operating businesses owned by families require strategic plans as well. So we can call this as business strategic plan. For for each individual or for each family member, there is also a need to plan the individual's wealth or personal wealth. So we can look at this from the angle of personal long-term plan. But now that we're talking about family, so there is a term or there is an evolution of family wealth as well that corresponds to the growth and evolution of family businesses. So here, when we talk about family wealth, it is the collective ownership of assets. And as a family, the family becomes the unit, right? And when we look at things from an individual perspective, so the person or the individual is the unit. And when we look at business, so business is the unit. So in the case of family wealth, the ownership is by the family, collective ownership, the family as a unit. So it is the difference between total family assets and family liabilities is the family net worth, right? So the value of the wealth is measured in terms of net worth, like personal net worth or business. In the context of business, we define it as shareholder funds. So in the case of family wealth as well, the family requires a strategic plan, and that is something that Bina Pavo advises on, not just for the business, but also for the family, that a family requires a strategic plan as well. And a family strategic plan will look at the relationship between the business and the family wealth. So when we say family wealth, it is not just the financial capital that we should look at, but it is also the human capital of the family, the intellectual capital, right? And just now, Dr. Leilanie spoke about education, about the need for training and development, for learning by family members, so that the family members, especially next generation, they can learn how to communicate. They can learn how to make joint decisions as a family. And there is also social capital, how family members engage with society and community through philanthropy, through corporate social responsibility, through charity, endowment, um, and other forms of ways to give back to the society. And we understand financial capital as in the form of assets and properties that are owned by the family. So when we look at two generations, for example, in the context of a family or a family business, there is this side of what we call acquired wealth, and acquired wealth is created by the founders of the business or the acquirers. So we assume the first generation or the founding generation to be the acquirers or the creators of wealth. And when they create the wealth, they are the ones. The business is the center of their life. They take risks. They are usually not a good listener or a teacher. That's why you see founders not having the patience or the ability to groom or nurture their next generation, as well as perhaps if the next generation were to be advised or to be groomed or coached by an external party. On the other hand, the inheritors, we assume the next generation, it could be from generation 2 onwards, that they grow with money, and they need to be able to sustain the wealth. And this is where there is sometimes issues with regards to the feeling of entitlement and the feeling of responsibility or obligation towards the family. There is normally a desire to continue the tradition or the values of the family. They are familiar with financial resources, but at the same time, different from the first generation or the founding generation, the next generation is more risk averse, and they practice prudent investing, and they tend to delegate wealth management to external advisors or to trusted advisors. Um, and the concern usually, the concerns of creators of wealth is usually about the effect of wealth over generations and what to pass on to us, and whether they are able to balance between raising happy, productive children versus spoiling their kids, making their kids to be feeling that they are entitled to the wealth, and even entitled to the business. On the other hand, the inheritors would normally or typically be concerned about, putting their mark after, how would they establish their own credibility or leadership when the parents have done so well to build the company as well as to build the wealth. And that is where they may be feeling that they may be feeling worried about making mistakes. This is probably why they are very prudent when it comes to investing, and why they may delegate wealth management to others. And if we were to look at the stages of family wealth evolution, the first generation or the founding generation is when we see entrepreneurship, when we see that the owner is also the manager, exuding management control over the business, and the business grow out of the owners or the founders personal vision. The governance structure will be somewhat informal or ad hoc, and the intent for when it comes to succession, uh, most of the time it is the intent is to pass over to the next generation, to a family member. But sometimes when the family member or the next generation does not want to take over, then the founder will resort to outside successor. In generation 2, this is where we call them as family partnership. And if, let's say, the next generation consists of siblings, then we say that this is sibling partnerships. And when this happens, the business has matured and grown. There would still be an informal board because the size of the partnership may still be small, but then at the same time there is intent to renew the business, perhaps to diversify the business. And if, let's say, the business is in a traditional area, for example, farming, or pretty much agricultural base, or or crafts, or depends on craftsmanship, then now that we are in the modern economy, the digital economy, generation 2 would now be looking into how to adopt and embrace technology. And this is also one way of renewing or innovating the business. There is also a likelihood that if the family partnership decides to discontinue, there would be a sale or a buyout of the business. And this is where things becomes more complex, which requires more formal structures. And in terms of family involvement, there could also now be cousins consortium, whereby the management is handled by cousins, and assets diversified, not just the business but also wealth, and they would have the business or businesses, or it could already become a group of companies, will have professional management to ensure sustainability of the operating businesses or the group of companies. And there would be more formal agreements even between family members. And there would also be a need for some family members to become stewards of human, financial, social capital, and intellectual capital. This is a diagram which I took from Okorian. Okorian is a company, is a global company providing trust, administration, and fiduciary services, uh, and they and this global provider has presence in many in around 16 to 17 countries in this world, particularly in offshore hubs. And Okorian has described these stages of wealthy family life cycle, and as you can see, the business or the family business usually starts as an entrepreneurial business family, and then it grows and evolves into, if the business family is successful, then they become a wealthy business family, later become a diversified wealthy family, and then there is going to be a transition or intergenerational wealth transfer, and eventually if they succeed, there is a possibility of becoming a multi-generational family, right? And this is the aspiration or the dream of many family founders and family businesses, that is to become a multi-generational family that lasts perhaps 100 years and beyond. Right. So when the company has evolved and family wealth has also evolved, there is also a need to oversee and manage the wealth in a more sophisticated and a more responsible manner. And this is where there is now a structure we call as family office. So for the operating business, you will have a business office where the management will work towards managing the business, the operating businesses. But in managing the family wealth, now there is this sophisticated structure called family office. And who are the people who require a family office? They are the owners of large businesses or conglomerates. They are the owners and families in business, right? The family enterprises that Dr. Leilanie spoke about just now. The beneficiaries of trust funds, this includes the next generation family members, global artists who are making a lot of money and wealth, now they are also into setting up family offices as well. And the emergence of technology-based ventures give rise to what we call serial technology entrepreneurs. And these serial technology entrepreneurs, for example, like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, these are serial tech entrepreneurs who would require family office services who may set up their own family office. So in this diagram, what I'm trying to show is the issue of how family wealth management should be managed sustainably. The source of income or wealth from a family business comes from the shares or shareholding of the business, dividends that are being paid out to the shareholders. The family business may also deploy funds into other setups or other structures that govern and manage the family wealth. And when there are exits or harvests by the family, then that would also be a source of income or wealth into the structures that are being used to manage the family wealth. So the structures or the mechanisms that are being used to manage family wealth can vary from informal, which could possibly be a joint account in a bank, and it could be more formalized by having structures like a holding company or a family office, a family trust, or a family foundation. So it doesn't mean that the wealth or these structures need to be available in all family or all families of wealth, but these are the options available to the families of wealth. And these structures can be set up or operated onshore as well as offshore. So this is a bit about governance structures for a family business. What I'd like to show is on the right hand side, where on the family dimension, the family assembly consists of the family shareholders who can set up a family council, and at the same time they have the option of setting up a family office to manage their family wealth. Family office comes in two forms. It could be single family office, which is the SFO, and there is also the multi-family office. So single family office is owned by a single family. That's why it's called a single family office. And when I say a family, that includes the bloodline of the family across generations, across when there is already a multi-generational family business or a multi-generational family office. And the multi-family office is usually operated by service providers like financial planning firms, investment advisory firms and also firms that provide trust and administration services like Okorian just now, which I showed. So this is a bit about the evolution or the development of family offices worldwide. And as you can see that family offices are now playing a big role, particularly in generating wealth globally, right? And now family offices are being run by next generation. right? So there is now an evolution of next generation family offices managed by responsible owners. So here I'd like to share a bit about why assets and wealth are sometimes managed offshore, or the cross-border management of wealth. This is because of risk diversification. So diversification can be because of geographical diversification, also because of currency, economic, political risks, and also social risks, like how we are now faced with the pandemic. And uh, offshore management of wealth is the transfer of wealth and asset across boundaries, and it provides for multi-generational wealth preservation and distribution. It provides for more efficient and effective tax planning, provides for migration and citizenship, and the acquisition of assets outside of the home country. Education is also a factor for cross-border management of wealth and lifestyle as a global citizen. So in Asia, we have 4 very renowned offshore hubs, which are Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore, and Taiwan. For Malaysia, we also have Labuan as an offshore hub, and the difference between Labuan and the other Asian offshore hubs is that Labuan is known to provide Sharia compliant structures and mechanisms. So for Muslim families, Labuan could be a good choice. Here I'd like to share 2 studies. One on the right side is the classical study whereby it is perceived that family businesses would not go beyond 3rd generation, and this has been ruled out by the Goodman study, whereby the Goodman study, which was commissioned in 2007 by the Family Firm Institute, found that if the family businesses operate more than 3 to 4 businesses at one time, the likelihood of the family business going beyond 3rd generation is higher. They would be more successful in going beyond 3 generations if they have a portfolio of firms. And this is where the portfolio of firms need to also manage the internationalization process or internationalization activities of the family. So that's what I'd like to share today with regards to family wealth management, and I'll pass back to the MC.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mohar and Dr. Leilanie. Right now we can have the Q&A session. So can I have the participants to engage and ask questions if you guys have any?
Hi, Dr. Leilanie and Professor Mohar. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question related to keeping assets and wealth offshore.
Yes.
What happens when we face unprecedented circumstances? For example, right now we have COVID-19 and there's lockdown. How do family businesses deal with the loss in value of assets and wealth?
Right. So just now I showed that there are possible structures and mechanisms that can be put into place. And this is where we talk about the need for strategic planning for the family, not just for the business. And the process of developing that family strategic plan should be done early, taking into consideration various types of risks, such as social risks, political risks, geographical risks, and so on. Um, and what I've shown just now are more structures. There are actually processes that need to be put into place, not just legal documentations to safeguard the interests of the family and also to reduce the risk of devaluation of assets, but processes need to be also put into place. And this is where sometimes families are lacking. Uh, they lack the strategic planning and particularly putting the processes in place to operationalize the structures that they have created to manage the wealth. Um, yeah, perhaps Dr. Leilanie would like to also add.
No, it's okay. I think you answered it quite well, Moha.
Yeah,
All
have
right,
I
thank you.
answered that question?
Yes, you've answered my question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would like to ask something. So basically, as it is about the internationalization of the business, so what type of miscommunications arrived in the process of uh, communicating with the businesses outside the country, and how could the miscommunications can be overcome?
Dr. Leilanie, about communication.
Yeah, well, if you talk about miscommunication, miscommunication happens because the message that is disseminated has been perceived to be something else, right? Okay, so if the message is not clear, hence people will then not understand the gist or the purpose or the intention of what needs to be communicated. So again, if we look at the basics of communication on how to communicate, when you say something and if the receiver does not understand, the receiver ought to clarify. But then again, a good communicator, if they have communicated, it is good to reiterate or to ask the receiver whether they have understood the message. So it's a two-way thing. So you have to always double check whether the receiving end understands what your intention is or what you are trying to communicate. um, if your business partner overseas, if they are a good communicator, chances are they will also clarify to make sure that they understood it correctly. So when we speak to our collaborators, especially in Hong Kong, we have a strong collaborator in Hong Kong as well as in Indonesia. It's a two-way thing. You have to make sure that your intentions are being understood. I think that is very important, because the moment the intention is not understood by the receiver, then of course miscommunication happens. But the danger to that is when the intention is not clear or not understood or perceived differently from the intended message. The danger is then distrust can happen, meaning you don't trust the other party. And that's a dangerous thing. Yeah. And distrust happens because people do not communicate. And when there is distrust, the next danger is conflict. Yeah. So conflict means then you start to argue. Yeah. You start not to communicate at all after that. And that's where, people will slowly distance away from each other. Yeah, so if you want to ensure that your business partner, be it in Malaysia or overseas, you want to make sure that they trust you, and that's very important in doing business, with another partner, or even, as a personal relationship. Yeah, trust is very important, and that is why when you ensure that you communicate, and then you will have trust, and then you will then manage the relationship, and there is no conflict. You want to avoid conflict. When conflict happens, you can't even talk to each other, and worse still, you can't even agree to continue to do business with your partner elsewhere. Yeah. So I hope, was it Sabrina? Did you ask that question?
Yes, Miss, you have answered my question really well. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Sabrina. Is there any other question? Anyone?
All right, so can we have another one question? Anyone from the audience that would like to ask? We can have another one more question. All right, if we don't have any questions, then let me ask a question.
Sure, yeah. Go ahead.
So yeah, Dr. Mohar and Dr. Leilanie, in your opinion, what are the other prominent strategies that you think that it should be implemented in particularly family businesses?
Okay, I will go first.
Okay.
At Bina Pavo, especially if the family is serious about the family legacy, is serious about passing the business to the next generation, is serious about ensuring that the business will last for the next 100 years, then the strategy that we always suggest first is to come up with what we call a family strategic plan. Yeah. A family strategic plan is like, in business, you have a strategic business plan or a business plan. So in a family business, the family needs to have the family strategic plan. Yeah. So this includes succession planning, includes the family constitution, which involve employment policy, shareholder policy, education allocation, family meetings, family get together, family coming together, yeah, and a whole array of activities that they can put in place to ensure that the family is moving cohesively together. Yeah, because through the family strategic plan is the output of the family strategic plan is the family constitution. Yeah. And this family constitution is a document, and this document needs to be implemented, not just on pen and paper, and then you're supposed to store it in your filing. Yeah, no. So at Bina Pavo, we make sure that the family constitution is being implemented. Implemented meaning that it has to be communicated. It needs to be the activities or the philosophy, the dreams, the hopes, and the fears are being communicated from one generation to the other, and the values and the culture of the family is also built upon and improved upon as they move from one generation to the other. Yeah, so that I hope has answered your question. Unless Mohar, you'd like to add anything else with regards to that question?
Yeah, I think one aspect that family businesses should consider is diversity. Then the I think with diversity, the family business would be able to internationalize in a more efficient and effective manner, particularly uh, in understanding different cultures, different languages, or social barriers and so on. Because if we look at the global landscape right now, there are several economic powers such as China and Russia, and there are also countries in Europe uh, where the business owners would not speak or may lack the ability to communicate in English, right? So if we want to do business globally, then there is also probably a need for us to have people in the management or our employees that are able to communicate uh, and understand different cultures, languages, and I think that's why diversity is also important, not just gender diversity, but also uh, having different types of races, uh, not just locals, but also foreign employees, and and if you are becoming a global player, definitely you will need workers who are from the foreign countries. So diversity is one thing very seriously to be considered.
Okay.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much, Dr. Leilanie and Dr. Mohar. So I think we will end the workshop here today. So first of all, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Mohar Yusof and Dr. Leilanie, the founders of Bina Power, for taking out time out of your busy schedule for an enlightening and insightful workshop on the right way to internationalize a family business. Your advice, particularly on, for instance, to implement succession plan and intention, and on how to manage family wealth cross-border is especially insightful. We really appreciate having both of you today, Dr. Mohar and Dr. Leilanie.
Most welcome is 1 minute. Thank you so much to Sunway, especially the Sunway International Business Society. Thank you for inviting us. It's been a pleasure. I hope that we've shared enough for you to take home and explore on internationalization of family business further. Yeah, so thank you again.
Yeah,
Thank you so
please
much.
please do contact or communicate with us if you require further information, or if you just want to discuss things. We are very open. We welcome any conversation that we can have with members of Sunway International Business Society.
Definitely. We'll be
Thank
more than
you very
happy to
much.
do so.